All right, let's talk about the tools we use to manage data. Some of them build things up, and some can cause a whole lot of trouble if you're not careful. Today, we are diving into one that can do both, the SQL update statement. It's absolutely essential, but it really demands respect. So let's figure out how to use it with both power and precision.
Pretty much everything we do with data boils down to just 4 basic actions. It's an acronym you'll hear all the time. CRUD. You create data, you read it, you delete it, and, the one we're zeroing in on today, you update it. We're about to put that "you" right under the microscope.
So first things first, let's tackle the fundamental reason this command even needs to exist. Why do we even need to update data in the first place?
Just think about it for a second. Data is almost never static, right? A customer moves to a new city. The price of one of your products goes up. A user changes their email address. Information is constantly evolving in the real world. So the big question is, how do you make your database reflect those real-world changes?
And that is where the update statement comes in. It is the command you use to reach directly into your database and make sure it's not stale. It's how you keep your data an accurate and reliable source of truth. Okay, so we've got the why down. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the how. We're going to deconstruct this command, piece by piece, so you can see exactly how it works under the hood.
Every single update query kicks off with these 2 simple parts. First, the command itself, update. No surprise there. And second, you name the table you want to change. You're basically telling the database, hey, get ready, I need to make a change inside this specific table.
After you've picked your table, you use the set keyword. This is where you declare your intentions. You specify exactly which columns need changing and what their new values should be. And you can do one column, or, as you see here, you can do multiple columns all at once.
And now, we get to the most important part of this entire command. And I'm not exaggerating, the where clause. This is the filter, the condition that tells the database exactly which records should be changed. Seriously, its importance can't be overstated. In fact, the where clause is so vital, it's getting its own entire section. I want you to think of this as the absolute golden rule of updating data. Mastering this one clause is the real key to using updates safely and effectively.
So here's the deal. The where clause is basically your targeting system. It's your laser sight. Without it, you're just firing blindly into your data. But with it, you can pinpoint the exact records, even down to a single specific row that you actually need to modify.
And this slide, wow, it just nails the difference perfectly. On the left, you've got the scalpel. The where clause targets only the customer with an ID of 1. It's a precise, surgical, clean change. But on the right, without that where clause, you've got the bulldozer. That command will change the city to Berlin for every single customer in your entire table. That's a potentially catastrophic mistake.
So, what are the rules of the road? First, just always use a where clause. Unless you have a very specific reason not to, it should be there. Second, your best bet is to use a primary key in that clause. Why? Because it's a guaranteed, unique identifier for a row. It makes your update completely unambiguous. And finally, always, and I mean always, double-check your condition before you even think about hitting execute.
And that double-check rule isn't just some friendly suggestion. It is a critical safety measure. Because when you use the update command, you're often standing at a point of no return. So let's talk about the consequences.
This quote right here says it all. You know how when you're editing a document, you have that beautiful undo button? Well, with a raw SQL update, that doesn't exist. There is no going back. The change is instant and it's permanent. The old data is just gone.
That's why having a mental checklist is so incredibly important. Think of it like a pilot's pre-flight check. Before you execute, ask yourself these questions. Do I have a recent backup? Is my where clause absolutely positively targeting the right rows, and am I using a primary key? And finally, have I looked at the new values in my set clause and made sure they're correct?
Okay, so all this theory is great, but what does this actually look like when you put it into practice? When you're writing code in something like a Python application. Let's take a look.
The workflow is pretty standard, really. First, you connect to the database. Then you create what's called a cursor. You can just think of it as a controller that lets you run commands. Then you prepare and execute your query using that cursor. And then, and this is a crucial step, you commit the changes. That's what makes them permanent in the database.
Now, what's really important on this slide is this idea of a parameterized query.
When you use update in an application, the new data is probably coming from a user. Instead of just jamming that user's data into your SQL string, you use these placeholders, the question marks you see here. Then you pass the actual data separately. This is an absolutely critical security practice. It protects you from a nasty attack called SQL injection, where someone could try to sneak malicious code into your database.
So this is where we'll leave it. The update statement gives you incredible power to shape and mold your data. It's an essential tool for sure, but as we've seen, it's a tool that comes with some serious responsibility. So the final question isn't really for me, it's for you. You have the power to change the data. How are you going to ensure you also protect it?